The 2022 NFL Draft has come and gone, and numerous Buckeyes have their chance to make their mark in the National Football League. On today's show, we will highlight what took place on days 2 and 3 of the NFL Draft. We will discuss those players that didn't get drafted but will still be at rookie mini camps and what we've learned from players such as Thayer Munford and Shaun Wade just a year ago. You can hear all that right here on Locked On Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Monday, May the 2nd in the year 2022, and I want to thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen or first watch of every single day. There are two words to describe what took place or what has taken place over the past weekend in every single round of the NFL Draft. They are fast and furious. Technically, that's three words, not two, but you get the gist. Fast and furious. That's the best way I can describe not just day one, but also days 2 and 3 of the 2022 NFL Draft. On day one, as we highlighted on Friday, two players got drafted. They were back-to-back. Number 10 pick in the first round, Garrett Wilson, was selected by the Jets. And then the number 11 pick, right after Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, got drafted by the New Orleans Saints. On day number 2, rounds 2 and 3, there were only two Buckeyes drafted. Nicholas Petit-Frere and Thayer Munford were, Nicholas Petit-Frere, and Jeremy Ruckert. Petit-Frere went in the third round, number 69 overall pick to the Tennessee Titans. And then Jeremy Ruckert was drafted by the Jets, remains teammates with Garrett Wilson, third round pick, number 101 overall. On day number 3, there was a 5th round pick that was a Buckeye and a 7th round pick that was a Buckeye. And that was it. We thought there would be 7 players drafted. There were only 6. In the 5th round, the Seattle Seahawks selected Tyrik Smith with the 158th overall pick. And then the Las Vegas Raiders, 7th round, the 238th overall pick. The Raiders selected offensive tackle, maybe offensive guard, Thayer Munford. 6 guys got drafted. The 7th, the one that did not get picked, we all thought there was a chance and there was a possibility, and it was highly expected for Haskell Garrett to get drafted in the 7 rounds of the NFL Draft. That didn't take place. He is one of the 2 undrafted free agents we will talk about later on in the show. But I believe this is a great moment for everybody involved. No matter if you are a first-round pick, the first Buckeye taken in Garrett Wilson, or the final Buckeye taken in the draft in Thayer Munford, everyone just needs a chance. That's it. You give somebody a chance to make their mark. That's all they need. Now, granted, you got a guy like Tyrik Smith that might be an outside linebacker in the NFL, may have a little 2-point stance and a little hand-to-the-ground 3-point stance that he utilizes there in the Pacific Northwest. But it doesn't matter if it's Tyrik Smith, Thayer Munford, Jeremy Ruckert. Just give these guys a chance. And I believe everybody is excited just to have a chance to play in the NFL. Yes, you had guys like Olave and Wilson who were expected to go high in the draft to be first-round picks. But as I have seen the reaction from Jeremy Ruckert, Nicholas Petit-Frere, Tyrik Smith, and Thayer Munford, I can tell, like, they don't care if they were the first pick of the NFL Draft or the final pick. They're just happy for the opportunity to play in the National Football League. I think that's the biggest takeaway from all of this. We can dissect and talk about, hey, are they going to be great? Are they going to flop? Are they going to fall? Is it a great landing spot for them? Is the NFL going to eat them alive? Did Ohio State football prepare them properly for what's to come down the road as they are professional football players? We can do that. We have all week, trust me, all week to do that. Also trying to line up some guests to come on that cover these teams that have drafted or signed or invited some players to the rookie minicamps to come on the podcast to help us learn more about how these athletes will be utilized at their new homes in the NFL. Just a chance. You in your life, you've had chances, and some of you have flourished when you've taken advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you. Sometimes we flop, we fall, we fail, but even though that may happen, we still get back up and we try again. I'm just so happy for all these guys. I mean, absolutely happy, excited, elated for everyone that got drafted. Not just these 6 athletes that got drafted, but for everybody over the over 250 plus guys that got drafted in the NFL draft. I'm excited for all of them because this is truly for all of them a dream come true. No matter if they're a rugby player from overseas or if they are someone that has been playing football their entire life in the US of A, it does not matter. All they have been asking for is an opportunity, and this is their chance. This is no joke. The NFL is not Ohio State football. It's not Alabama football. The NFL is not college football. This is the big leagues. This is where the big boys come to play, and you got to bring your best every day you're on the field. And I firmly believe every guy that I have mentioned, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jeremy Ruckert, Nicholas Petit-Frere, Thayer Munford, and Tyrik Smith, I firmly believe all of them are up to the task and will wow people and surprise people, not only in rookie minicamp, but in OTAs, but also in training camp, going into the preseason and into the 18 weeks, the 17 games in 18 weeks in the NFL. I believe all of them will wow and surprise their new employer, their coaches, their position coaches, everybody involved, because all these guys can play. All these guys can ball. Even if there is a position change and they're more out standing up versus hand in the ground. We saw with Jonathan Cooper last year and how the Broncos got him, snagged him, and how Cooper wowed the team and the executives and the coaches over there in Denver. I firmly think when I think of Jonathan Cooper, I think of Tyrik Smith, just because they are players that had question marks, but they are people I do believe will firmly take advantage of this opportunity and flourish when they do so. So as there were 6 players that got drafted by the Buckeyes this year, or 6 Buckeyes that got drafted, there were 5 that were either undrafted free agents or they got invitations to rookie mini camps. Haskell Garrett is the one that was kind of surprising that he did not get drafted. We'll discuss more about that here in a second. But Haskell Garrett signed an undrafted free agent contract with the Tennessee Titans. Master Teague signed an undrafted free agent contract with the Chicago Bears, once again teaming up with former quarterback that handed him the ball off numerous times, Justin Fields. Antoine Jackson got an invitation to rookie minicamp with the New York Giants. Demario McCall got an invitation to rookie minicamp with the Chicago Bears. And then Chris Booker, wide receiver, but was primarily a special teams player, got a rookie minicamp invite via the Arizona Cardinals. Haskell Garrett, to me, is one of those players that I do think can play in the NFL. But as Bill Bender stated last week, and I want to restate what he said, Haskell Garrett's going to have to fight for a roster spot. Now, in the mock drafts that I looked at, no matter if it was 11 Warriors and Dead Hope or Bill Bender from Sporting News or different mock drafts that I looked at along the way, everybody had Haskell Garrett getting drafted. But there was something with this draft that was a little bit different than others. There were, I believe, twice as many prospects and names in the NFL draft. A lot of that was because players got a free year due to the COVID, and the NCAA awarded everyone that played during the 2020 season a free year of eligibility. So you had players that would have left previously last year, stay in school to play one more year, and said, well, how about I put my name in the NFL draft to simply see what happens? And that's something I do think hurt a player, actually a couple players, such as Thayer Munford and Haskell Garrett, because they were competing up against way more guys and way more athletes than normal during the NFL draft. And so with that in mind, I think it hurt Haskell Garrett, But that may have been the fuel that this man needed. I mean, think about it. Haskell Garrett is a former All-American defensive tackle at Ohio State. And when he puts his name in the NFL draft, he doesn't get drafted. That's not normal. And that's not a way to say that right now Haskell Garrett has fallen off so much, he has declined so much that he can't play football. That's not what it is either. It's just saying he was going up against a lot more guys, and the way that the film showed him last year, it just didn't work out for him to get drafted. But signing that contract with the Titans is huge, and I do think going there in Nashville will be a perfect way and a perfect spot for him to make his mark, not only with the Titans, but potentially make his mark in the National Football League. Something I want to highlight very quickly before we go on to Master Teague is there were 2 Buckeyes that signed, yes, they have signed undrafted free agent contracts. The other 3 that have invitations to rookie mini camps, they have not signed contracts yet. They are, when I talk about trying to make your mark and try to work and fight to make a roster spot, all of these guys here that didn't get drafted, they're fighting to make a roster spot. Thayer Munford, same thing. Tyrik Smith, probably same thing, but I still think there's a role for him in Seattle. But the 3 guys that have not, they have a different battle. They have a different climb. They have a different fight than the other 2 in Haskell Garrett and Master Teague. They literally have to do everything they can. I mean, show up early, stay late, ask all the questions, digest the playbook outside of the facility. They have to do all of those things quickly. Because the more you do, the quicker you grasp things and the better you are at showing your new employer and your bosses and coaches that you belong to the NFL, the more likely that you got to prove it on the field as well. But if you show you're not just here just to waste some time, but you're here to be all about this opportunity, that's a great way to cement yourself in the NFL. But Master Teague, going to Chicago, if you're someone that didn't transfer Master Teague, and I thought he was going to transfer instead of go to the NFL, because I do think he could have helped himself a tad by transferring to another school to play one more year of college football. But if you're a player in Master Teague that didn't get on the field much and still were able to sign an undrafted free agent contract with an NFL team, that means they have seen some things from you via the film previously that show you might be a good fit for them. And honestly, I think so. Now, Master Teague has to work. And he has to show, do I have wiggle? Do I have the hit? Do my hips have a little wiggle in them? Am I able to be side to side? Am I just straightforward? Am I just going to be a goal line running back? Am I going to be someone that can play first and second down, first down, maybe in a backup role where it's 1st and 10 from your own 38? Can I be that guy if the top 2 guys go down? Or am I going to be someone that's just a situational back? This is the time for him to prove what kind of back he is. I still think he's situational. Last year at Ohio State, he could have played all 3 downs if the top 2 guys went down, but it would have been a long shot. I still think he is a situational back in the NFL, but he has to prove it. It's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. Situational back for him, yes, that's where he is, but do I see a future for him in the NFL? Between him and Haskell Garrett, I think Haskell Garrett will make a roster. Buddy, I don't know what Teague does. I'm more out on him in the NFL than in, but Teague is the one that has the final say-so about what he does in the National Football League. Antoine Jackson, rookie minicamp invite via the New York Giants. Demarion McCall, rookie minicamp invite via the Chicago Bears. And then Chris Booker going to Arizona to be in the Cardinals rookie minicamp. Antoine Jackson, one of the pluses about him is that he can be a run stopper in a one technique or nose tackle position, and he can be a run stopper and pass rusher via the 3 technique or defensive tackle position. The one thing about him was he kind of had the similar situation like a Haskell Garrett. The rotation was just a little off for them, and even though he was a 6-year player, he never was able to really get consistent run game after game after game after game after game at Ohio State. Due to how players were utilized, it's not just last year. I mean, previously, He kept trying and kept trying and kept trying to make his mark, to be somebody that people can love. We have seen great plays and great play from him in numerous games at Ohio State. But I do think the versatility that he has, not only being able to play a 1 technique, but also a 3 technique, that's something the Giants can utilize. And the Giants are a franchise similar to the Jets, both in New York, both a little dysfunctional, both looking for ways to improve right now. I do think the Giants, if they use him properly, and if Antoine Jackson takes advantage of this opportunity right in front of him, it's a great opportunity for him, man. Great chance. Chris Booker, buddy, happy for you. Really happy for you. Really excited for all these Buckeyes involved. But Booker, McCall, and Teague are the 3 guys I just don't see making 53-man roster for an NFL team. I think McCall, his thing is nobody knows what position he's best suited for at the next level. I mean, nobody really knew the position he was best suited for in college. If he were to go to the CFL, I still think nobody knows what position he's best suited for in the CFL, the Canadian Football League. Is he a running back? Is he a slot receiver? Is he a corner? Does anybody know? Have we seen enough film on him to know what is the best position for him? I haven't. I know you haven't. And I know that's something that the NFL, the coaches in Chicago are trying to figure out right now. Happy for all these guys. Even though they didn't get drafted, they still have a chance to make their mark in the National Football League. Guys, I don't normally bring in different promotion of things from the Jay Stevens podcast, but today starts Women in Sports Month on the podcast, and I firmly think you guys will enjoy what's going to come on the Jay Stevens podcast. Today we have Miss Alexa Wester, first guest from the Jay Stevens podcast. Next week, I'm planning on having the first female black swimmer at the University of North Carolina on the podcast to tell her story. And it's just a time and a space for us to allow women to highlight their journey, help us learn more about what it's like being a woman in sports and how things can get better for them. 5 Mondays in the month of May, 5 different females will be on the podcast to talk about their stories and to talk about the things that they have learned and endured and maybe enjoyed along the way being a woman in sports. So the past couple of years since I've hosted this podcast, really have dug deep in covering the Ohio State Buckeyes. There's one thing that has stuck out to me. I'm a draft guy, but I'm not a draft nerd. I like watching and following the draft, but I don't get all into the mock drafts and get all into the numbers and, the combine this and the pro day that. That's not normally my thing, but I can look at a big picture and learn things from what happened during a season and how things have transpired during the draft and to see, something about this seems a little odd. There were 2 guys specifically that I think we can learn a lot of things from, and it's going to kind of remind us of things that Jay has said on the podcast that sometimes make sense in the moment and still make sense today, even though the statement is going to be a little bit different than what he has said previously. Shaun Wade a year ago lost himself money by staying in school. If he would have come out after the 2019 season, when it was Jeff Okudah and Damon Arnett on the outside, and Shaun Wade played in the slot corner position, nickel safety, cover safety position. I still think that would have been the best chance for him to maximize the opportunity in front of him and to make the most money if he came out after the 2019 season. Ultimately, he came out after the 2020 season. He moved from inside to outside. Now, granted, there was an injury that he was recovering from, but I don't think that injury was the reason he fell in the draft. I think the main reason was he didn't excel. He got burnt on the outside. He got used. I wouldn't say he got burnt all the time, but if it was a one-on-one situation, I remember watching Jahan Dotson the game against Penn State, and we saw Jahan Dotson get the best of Shaun Wade numerous times in that game. I think Shaun Wade lost himself some money by staying in school. Thayer Munford this year. If Thayer Munford would have come out last year after the 2020 season, I firmly think he's a day 2 pick, maybe a round 2 or round 3 pick. But staying in school this year, this is partly some things that happened with the coaches. The coaches said, regardless of position, we're going to play the best 5 offensive linemen. But I still don't think they played the best 5 offensive linemen. But that's what they decided to do. Ultimately, that bumped Thayer Munford from left tackle to left guard. And now we have a situation just like a player, not as deep as a Demario McCall, but a player like a Demario McCall, because they're going to be wondering what's the best position for him. McCall, we absolutely have no idea. I think a lot of us have an idea about Thayer Munford, what's the best position for him. But ultimately, we got to wait and see what happens in rookie minicamp, OTAs, and training camp to figure out what the Tennessee Titans the Las Vegas Raiders believe is the best slot for him. Thayer Munford stayed in school, and ultimately, he lost himself some money and is going to fight for a roster spot in Vegas because he did so. And I went earlier and said that there may be a statement that I said previously that might contradict what I'm saying, but it did not, because I said Malachi Branham should stay in school. I still think he should stay in school, but then as I looked at the mock drafts, and I tried to take those with a grain of salt, not to put much stock into them, but maybe, just maybe, he might be a lottery pick. I've also seen the 20th pick in the NBA draft, so things are still up in the air about Mr. Branham and the decision. But there's a fine line between staying in school and going to the next level. Branham one and done. He could come out now, and he did. But should he stay in school? I think so. Shaun Wade and Thayer Munford, they took the opportunity in front of him. Shaun Wade moved positions and thought, hey, maybe this is the best thing for me to show the NFL scouts and executives what the best position for me in the NFL is. And we saw what happened because of that. We're not sure what's going to happen with Thayer Munford, but I do know the monetary gain that he would have had by going to the NFL, it's a lot less now than it would have been by staying in school. Sometimes you got to take advantage of what's right in front of you and tackle that thing. And I'm not going to be naive enough to say that some guys literally love playing college football so much that is why they stay in school. I'm not going to be that guy, and I firmly understand the allure and the appeal to stay in school and play college football, especially at a place like the Ohio State University. Some guys have a goal that they want to win a national championship, and so they keep playing football at that level until they accomplish that goal. Sometimes they don't reach that goal, such as at Thayer Munford, and by doing so, well, that's just the decision that they have made. It's very, very unclear, very, very difficult to figure out and to firmly say when guys should go, when guys should stay. But I honestly think that last year and even going into this year for Thayer Munford, I think people were saying last year after last season he should go. People were saying for Shaun Wade after the previous year, at 2019 season, he should go. And ultimately, what do we see? Guys have lost money. Have the right people in your corner. Have the right people in your circle, because they will a lot of times help you make the right decision for you in your professional career. Great way to start off the week. We're going to have a phenomenal time this week discussing the things that took place in the NFL draft. Might even discuss some national college football and basketball topics here on the podcast, because things are getting interesting with this NIL situation. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Thank you for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen every day. Now make your second listen of the day the Locked On Big Ten podcast, because that's the place to get all of your Big Ten news in less than 30 minutes with Big Ten expert Nate Dickinson. Also, yours truly will be on the podcast every Monday, co-hosting with Nate as we recap the weekend that was in the Big Ten Conference. The Locked On Buckeyes podcast, just like the Locked On Big Ten podcast, they are both free and available wherever you get your fine podcast.